Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Dr. DeAndrea Matthews of Claire Aldin Publications. Dr. DeAndrea, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem. Pleasure is definitely all ours. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Dr. DeAndrea so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And she is an educator, author, and international speaker. She is the founder and CEO of Claire Aldin Publications, an award-winning hybrid publisher that is accredited by the Better Business Bureau and a member of the Independent Book Publishers Association. She is the author of 6 books, 5 chapter books, and 2 academic journal articles, in addition to the clients she has published in an effort to diversify publishing one author at a time. Most recently, Dr. Matthews was selected to receive one of the top 100 leaders in education award from the Global Forum for Education and Learning. Dr. DeAndrea, congratulations, and it's great to have you on the show. Are you ready to speak to the IMCEO community?
I am ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So to kick everything off, I want just to hear a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story? We'll let you get started with all those.
Certainly. So I started as an author before I became a publisher, before I launched my own publishing company. But a part of the reason why I wanted to launch a publishing company is it was such a steep learning curve to learn so much about the publishing community and all of the things necessary in order to produce a professional industry standard book. I knew that a lot of first-time authors would not have access to the same people, to the same resources that I did. So I decided actually it was 2015 when I made the decision, and I actually launched the company in 2017, but I decided to launch a hybrid publishing company. Now, the story behind going hybrid versus other formats for publishing was something else that I put a lot of thought into. Obviously, traditional publishing companies have their model, self-publishing or independent publishers have their model, and I wanted to really bring together the best of both worlds, which is why I decided on a hybrid publishing company, and really that's how it came about. I wanted to provide professional services, education, and tools to people who wanted to publish a book but did not know what to do or where to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely sounds like it could be an overwhelming process, just trying to kind of figure out all of the things that you need to do and to be able to kind of set it up to get to be the success that you want it to be. So it's great that you provide so much, value to people that are looking to try to find that information and do that in that hybrid way that you mentioned.
Yes, definitely. And a part of what I provide, again, is not just the professional services, but also the education, because some people may want to do it on their own, but it still is my responsibility to the community to let them know the things that you should know, the things you should keep in mind as you're going through the process, even if it's on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I love, that you do that through your process, bringing the best of both worlds, so to speak, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And so could you touch a little bit, I know you touched on it a little bit, but could you drill down a little bit more on how exactly you work with your clients, how you support them in some of those resources and services you provide?
Definitely. So at Claire Aldin Publications, we have developed a 5-pillar process in order to take your manuscript from blank page really to published book. So that 5-pillar process includes the book production process, book design, book marketing, book publishing, and also book distribution. And even though those are some very broad topics, within those topics, when you do a deep dive, it includes everything from the editing process. And again, there are 12 different types of editing that you can have in a manuscript. We do at least 3 rounds of professional edits, and we have custom book design covers. We work with various professionals in the industry to make sure that at the end of the day, regardless of how we receive your manuscript, we produce masterpieces.
Nice. And like I kind of talked about, it's so important to kind of have that goal in mind of what you want to have, that masterpiece, but not understanding or not trying to know all of those different aspects is so huge. It's so important to be able to know who to ask about. And I didn't even know there's 12 different types of editing. So it's glad to know, at least the person that knows about that. So you'll be able to kind of pick your brain and hear about those resources.
That's right. And professional development is a huge part of it because there's so much going on in the industry. You need to be connected to an industry professional that's staying on top of industry trends, best practices, and things of that nature, because things could have changed. Say if you published a book 2 years ago in the same genre, 2 years later, it could be a very different landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we are experiencing a very transformational time, to say the least now, we're going to see a lot of changes. And again, it's so important to be able to know the industry expert to be able to kind of lean on.
Oh, yes, so much has changed this year. It's absolutely transformational, and our businesses have to keep in step to make sure that we
Mhm.
not only survive, but thrive.
Exactly, exactly. So I love that you help so many people do that. So would you consider that to be like your secret sauce, the thing you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique, or your organization? Is it that ability to be able to kind of stay tuned in and have and stay true to that 5-step process you mentioned?
I do think that's a part of what we offer that's unique, the professional development aspect of it, the fact that I continue to challenge myself, whether it is receiving various awards that acknowledge the work, the professionalism, the integrity that I bring to the table. All of that makes a difference when it comes to the clients that you serve. They want to make sure that they are investing in the right product with the right company, with the right, of course, mission, vision, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you have that, that mission and vision and you're doing the right things, to me, it starts to kind of bleed through everything that you're doing, whether we're talking about the process or, the resources that you create or the service that you provide. You start to see that manifest itself in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And that's why I always tell people that I publish authors, not just
Mm.
books. I publish authors because the relationship that's developed over the process, and we make sure that our authors have a chance to approve each step of the process. We want to make sure that their input is valued and that they ultimately receive the product that they desire. So it's important to have that collaboration with the author themselves and not just the book. And as a result of that, I now have authors who were first time authors that are now coming back for their second and third publications.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I'm glad you made that distinction because even myself, I often think about the book and we forget about the book being an extension of the author, and that's why you probably have those people coming back because they're starting to again try to showcase their expertise or reach whatever goal they might have, and they understand that you're developing the person, and the book is a manifestation of that.
Definitely. And it's a part of, again, what makes me so proud as the CEO of the company.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an Apple book or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
So, one of the bigger things that makes me effective and efficient is the fact that I color code my block schedule. So,
Mm,
a lot of times, people struggle with productivity, people struggle with time management, and that is something that I've had to master because, in addition to being the CEO of Claire Aldin Publications, I'm also a wife, I'm also a mother. I still have a full time day job in addition to doing this, as well as wearing other hats within the community that I serve. So it's a necessity that I distinguish those hours of the day that I'm spending on specific projects. That's my biggest hack, making sure that I'm giving the time in my schedule to focus on everything that needs to be done. So I'm a little methodical when it comes to my schedule. My family knows if it's not on the schedule, it does not exist. So those types of things become important. And that's my biggest hack, is making sure that I have the time scheduled and set aside to complete everything that I'm responsible for.
yeah, that's absolutely huge. Your family probably knows my family because I say the same thing. If it's not on the schedule, it doesn't happen. It won't happen. So I try to make sure to do that on a regular basis. Is there a reason that you also kind of take it a step further and color code it? Does that help you to kind of see everything a lot quicker?
It does. I have become more visual the older that I've gotten. So
Mm,
having the color block schedule is much more important than just text on a page, particularly in the season that we're in where so much is on the screen. We want to be
yeah.
able to distinguish it with colors. So I use colors to make sure that it means something. If I see green, obviously that goes for my day job.
Mhm.
Blue is my husband's favorite color. So that's our quality time as a couple. So those colors are not just to distinguish the schedule, but they mean something. Those colors begin to mean something.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, and understanding that a lot of there's this whole kind of color psychology around what colors that you choose, and red is
Oh,
like an
yeah.
active color. So I love that they're not just colors kind of chosen willy
Random.
nilly, yeah,
Yes.
really randomly. That's even better word, but it's something that has a meaning, and I feel like when you see it, you start to get that connection. I imagine when you see that blue, you probably get really happy, and I know your
Oh,
husband
yeah.
does too.
I look forward to that time of the week.
Nice. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this could be a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
That's really good. So, the nugget that I would share would be to make sure that you leave a legacy.
Mhm.
So whether it's a written legacy as an author that I would share with my clients, something that again outlives you, that future generations have a chance to enjoy, learn more about you, whatever that could be, whether it was something regarding your expertise, your life story itself, I would say to leave a legacy. A written legacy is a huge part of what I do as a hybrid publisher, but just leaving a legacy, period, whatever that looks like. I would encourage people to leave a legacy. And if you haven't thought about it previously, now's a great time to start thinking about, what do I want my legacy to look like?
Yeah, and it's so huge. And often I'll reference the 7 habits of highly effective people. And
Mhm.
one of those habits is, beginning with the end in mind. And
Yeah.
it's so huge to kind of understand that, because I think so many times we forget the actions that we're taking on a regular basis, whether we know it or not, is kind of creating our legacy, creating what we're going to be known for. So if you do, or if you haven't done that exercise and have that vision, then I think that's a great place to start, because a lot of times when you create, a book or whatever that might be, that's going to stand longer than us, and it's going to represent your ideals, what you wanted to see the world as, and so many different things. So why not be proactive in doing that?
So true. And a lot of the literary works that we enjoy today were produced hundreds of years ago.
Mm.
So we want to keep that in mind. It's lasting. It still continues. People still enjoy it to today. So we want to make sure that we have something that's a part of, again, that legacy, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, so important to kind of take the action to be able to figure out what exactly you want that to be, and then the actions come from there. So love that. And now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Dr. DeAndrea, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Being a CEO means taking other people along the journey. Even though a CEO position is a leadership position, one of the highest leadership positions in most companies and corporations, it's really about taking other people along that journey. There's always a team behind the scenes that contributes to the work product, that contributes to what is actually being accomplished. The CEO might take the credit for it, they might be the front person, get all the great PR, but there's always a team. And I try to lead in a way where that team knows that they're valued and that I could not do the things that I do without them.
Yeah, and it's so huge, and I think we sometimes forget about that journey piece that you spoke about.
Yes.
We often think it's instant, like oatmeal, where you just pop in the microwave and there you have it. But in so many ways, it's definitely a journey. And I love how you kind of talked about letting people know and reminding the people that are around us, our team, and the people that help support us, of the role and the support that they provided. Because I think often as leaders, we can sometimes forget that, and it's so important to kind of make sure that they understand that, because I think that empowers them, makes them want to, be even stronger at their role, because it allows us to create those win-win opportunities.
It does. And because I've been in various roles before I got to CEO, I know what it's like being that team member. I know what it's like
Mhm.
contributing. And you want to make sure that your people know that they're valued, know that they're appreciated, because in that retention piece, retaining those great people that we have on our team, it's important that they know it so that they understand what they're contributing and how it equates to the bottom line, not just for the projects and the monetary aspect of it, but you develop relationships with the people that you work with. You spend more time at work a lot of times than you do with your family members during the run of a week. So you want to make sure that that team dynamic is in place and that they understand that they're an important part of what takes place.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of even going back to your nugget where we talked about legacy, understanding, how the people that are on your team are contributing to their legacy as well, too. Because like we said, obviously you can do that in a book, in a written book that we're enjoying, thousands of years later.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's in the actions and the things that we're doing. And we want to make sure that the people on our team also are in line with their mission and their vision and their legacy, so they understand how that accounts to what's going on and what's happening within organizations.
Yes. And one of the other things I learned as part of being on the team, you always want to maximize the opportunity to promote from within. So if ever I decide that, you know what, I'm no longer going to hold this position, but I want someone who's been working right alongside me, who knows and understands and appreciates the business and the work that goes into it, to promote from within. So we want to make sure that we're not just looking externally when we're looking to hire people or promote them, but we're also looking at the people who've been serving us all along.
Yeah, because a lot of times those are the people, if we're really being aware of what and how they're contributing, and we understand, how they can, maybe evolve, or maybe they do have skills that maybe can be used in this next role. We want to be aware of that as leaders, because so many times, as you said, we're always looking externally, whether it be people to hire or sometimes even solutions to problems, when a lot of times the answers might be all within us or around us.
That's absolutely right.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Dr. DeAndrea, I truly appreciate that definition, and I appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things that you're working on.
Well, thank you so much again for everyone watching or listening. My name is DeAndrea Matthews. I am the founder and CEO of Aldin Publications, an award-winning hybrid publishing company that is a member of the Independent Book Publishers Association and is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. And that's where I turn manuscripts into masterpieces. If you want to follow our business account, Aldin Publications, we're on social media at Claire Aldin, that's CLAIREALDIN. You can also visit our website at www.clairealdin.com. And you can also follow me on my personal social media pages at Dr. DC Matthews. So on all of the social media, you will find me at DRDCMATTHEWS.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And to make it even easier, we will have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can follow you and see all the awesome work that you're doing. But I appreciate you. So many times we forget that there's really great ideas, there's really phenomenal people that don't really get to give their gifts, don't really get to tell their stories, talk about their expertise. So I appreciate you for helping so many people do that. And I think we as a culture, as a world, get to benefit from the work that you're doing. So I appreciate you for doing that. And I appreciate your time as well. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right, and I'll cut it off here. Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh again from the I Am CEO podcast, and we had a phenomenal interview with Dr. DeAndrea Matthews and DeAndrea Matthews of Aldin Publications. Dr. DeAndrea, it's awesome to have you again for this bonus section.
Thank you. And it's DeAndrea.
DeAndrea, I'm sorry. And I keep putting my foot in my mouth, but I appreciate you for helping me out. That's what any good book publisher and editor does, is able to make sure that comes out correctly right. But for people that might be just, listening to this, I know we talked a lot about, so many aspects of, your start and how you were able to kind of create this awesome company. But people that may not know about the book publishing process, what exactly that looks like, could you tell us a little bit more about your story and how exactly you helped that come to fruition?
Absolutely. So when I say we, I'm looking at the company itself, Aldin Publications, which is where I am founder and CEO. We have a 5-pillar book creation process. And of those 5 pillars, I pulled together into the 5 pillars to better explain to people all of the various aspects that go into producing a book. So when you look at the first pillar, which is book production, that really is taking it from blank page all the way to a completed manuscript. There are various steps along that process, but the biggest thing to remember is to just write. The editing will come later. A lot of times when we're writing, we want to edit as we're writing. Just get it out of your head and onto the paper or onto the screen. So after that book production process, the next one is book design. So book design, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on. I'll come back to that. But following book design, then you really have book marketing. Book marketing really should begin 6 months before your book is released. A lot of people don't know that you can start talking about your book and building momentum and letting people know what is to come even before your book comes out. And then ultimately book publishing and book distribution. So coming back to book design, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about that because there's so many different aspects that people don't necessarily, again, grasp that goes into the book design itself. Now, there are 3 main things that we can focus on: the book cover design, formatting, and typesetting. So for the book cover design, you obviously have your front cover, you have your back cover, and you have your spine. The spine typically is only available for books that have more than 101 pages. So if you have a smaller book than that, you might have a little room for a spine and you might be able to squeeze something on there, but typically more than 101 pages, you will have a spine for your book. And on the spine, you do want the author's name, you do want the name of the book, and you should have the publisher logo on there as well. The front cover kind of speaks for itself. people do judge books by its cover. So you want to make sure that you have a cover that's engaging, that speaks to the genre that you are writing about, because you don't want people to look at your book and think that it's, again, a sci-fi thriller and it's really a romance novel. So you want to make sure that you have a picture that says exactly what they're going to get in the story itself. But on the back cover, particularly of nonfiction books, because that's what I specialize in, nonfiction books, you want to have your book description, your about the author, your author bio is what it's also called, as well as your ISBN, which is your book's social security number for the most part, as well as your publisher logo and any other pertinent information. But all of those aspects should go to an editor. The same way that you would edit the inside of the book, you want to edit the outside of the book. You want to make sure that it is, properly punctuated, it has good grammar and all of those different aspects. And then the other thing I'll point out is your author bio can be different for each book that you write. The author bio, please don't let it read like an obituary. It should, again, contribute to your expertise in writing whatever the book is about. So if it's a parenting book, talk about being a parent. If you're writing a book on pets, talk about being a pet owner. If you are writing something for an academic setting, then talk about, again, the types of things that you've done in the academic arena. So your author bio can be specified for the particular book that you're publishing. And then, of course, don't just talk about what the book is about in the book description. Give the benefits and allow people to see themselves in that storyline, because you can tell how interested a person is with the book if they pick it up, look at the front cover, and then from the front cover they flip it over to the back and they read it, and then from reading the back they actually open up the inside. If someone picks it up and puts it right down, that says the cover doesn't speak to them and they don't see themselves in it. But if they go through all three, they look at the cover, they flip it over after reading that book description, then they flip to the inside, they're definitely interested in your content. So those are, again, all the elements as far as cover design that we think about as we're pulling together each unique author's experience. And then finally, the formatting aspect of it. Formatting, you have to format your book for each format that is going to be produced in. For example, ebook and paperback are two very popular formats that everyone who's producing a book should have at least those two formats. Ebook formatting is a little bit different than paperback formatting. There's so many different things to take into consideration to produce that final product. So those are two separate processes. And then ultimately typesetting. Typesetting is different as well, because once you have the book formatted, you want it to look good. So what type of headings are you going to have? Are you going to have a different font for your chapter headings than you do for the body text itself? So again, these are just some various aspects that we look at as a part of, again, these 5 pillars overall of the book creation process, but specifically looking at book design.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate you for breaking that down. I think so many times when you look and I'm looking at all the books I have around me that you don't see all of that goes into it. But one of the things, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, that I heard, coming through consistently, especially around that book design piece, is kind of speaking to who exactly you want to and know will read the book. And I think so many times sometimes we just kind of can be willy-nilly. I'm going to use that word since it came up during the podcast about how exactly we are kind of creating the book cover or deciding what parts of our bio to put into the back. But I think if you're very strategic about understanding that, you're speaking directly to that person that's going to pick it up.
Yes, you are. And one of the questions that I like to ask authors as we're getting to know each other during that initial consult is, who is your target audience? And a lot of new authors will say, well, everyone can benefit from my book. So that becomes a teachable moment. And that's a part of that education that we provide, because yes, even though everyone might benefit from your book, it's not written for everyone. If it's a female author, then it's quite likely that you're writing for a female audience. If it's a male author, it's quite possible you're writing for a male audience. Well, if that's the case, a book written for 17 to 25-year-olds is going to read very differently than one written for 45 to 60-year-olds. So all of these things you take into consideration as a part of that process, because you do want it to speak to those that you've specifically designed your content for.
Yeah, that's so huge. And in the marketing world, we'll say often that if you're targeting everyone, you're targeting no one.
That's so
So
true.
I love that kind of teachable opportunity, because I think so many times, as you said, it's not as if the book couldn't have an impact on, everyone, but in reality, you want to be very targeted on how you're creating, your book cover and all of those aspects, and understanding your target market, because again, the great manuscripts come from there.
Definitely, definitely. So that's, like I said, one of those teachable moments. So you want to make sure that you're empowering the authors, because even after the book is produced, we share opportunities for authors to gain additional exposure. So whether it's being a podcast guest, or whether it is being interviewed live on a live stream, or other opportunities, we need to empower them to be able to say the right things. They need to know what genre their book is in. They need to know who their target audience is. So all of these things come about as a part of the process, which is again why we publish authors and not just books.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That came up definitely, during the interview. And I wanted to ask you, do you find that people can come to you at any step they are along the process? And what I mean by that is sometimes people maybe have written for years, and maybe they have a book kind of in some form, shape, or fashion, but want to get it published. And then there might be somebody that wants to write a book but hasn't even started anything. Do you find that you're able to kind of work with people no matter what step they are along the process?
Yes, that's very true. And we have had people at multiple stages along the process. My specialty, of course, is the publishing arena, but recently I've added a writing consultant who works with people who don't quite have a finished manuscript yet. And again, whether it is you're starting with a blank page, or you've written some things and you just need some help in finishing it, we now have those services available as well to help people who are still in that writing part of the process. So I have had an author who was writing poetry for 42 years to
Wow.
finally pull it together and produce her first book. So we do meet people at many different stages along the process, many different levels of experiences and backgrounds, and we try to service them all.
Yeah, that's so huge. And I imagine that especially when somebody is, putting their heart and their soul into what it is that they're creating, I imagine that there might be sometimes a longer process. Sometimes you may be afraid of being able to kind of publish that and a lot more involved. But as we kind of talked about, during the interview, during the podcast, that's why it's so important to kind of lean on experts that have that expertise, that stay inclined and dialed into the changes that are happening, because you want to make sure that piece of work, the thing that you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into, has that opportunity to really be shown in the best light.
Definitely. And a lot of the authors, hold on to that manuscript as if it's their baby. And that's okay. We want you to love your manuscript, but it is also important to release it, like you said, into the hands of experts who could make it better. You are telling your story, but we need to also be able to pull out how it can benefit someone else. So it's your story and it remains your story, but let's pull out these points. Let's pull out these benefits. Let's pull out the outcomes that now can speak to other people and teach, again, have these teachable moments or these experiences that other people can now draw from.
Nice. I absolutely appreciate that. Well, Dr. Deandra, truly appreciate that and appreciate your time again. For people that might just be listening to this aspect, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things that you're doing?
Excellent. So you can get involved. You can follow us on social media. Claire Aldin Publications can be found at Claire Aldin, CLAIREALDIN. You can follow me on my personal pages at Dr. DC Matthews, DRDCMATTHEWS. You can also visit our website at www.clairealdin.com, or you can email us at info@clairealdin.com. Happy to answer any questions and provide the additional information you need in order for you to produce your first book.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I truly appreciate that. I appreciate you being that hybrid publisher that allows people to kind of get the best of both worlds, as we talked about during the show. And we will definitely have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can follow up with you. But definitely appreciate you again. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you. Same to you.